the living dead, resurrected corpses, the infected. Whatever way you want to describe them, to me, they are all zombies. And because of that, I didn't want to pigeonhole my selection either. Infected, back from the dead. Fast, slow, speaking, silent. If in one sense or another they are zombies, it was all fair game and qualified it for this list. With all of that said, let's run from this outbreak together as we rank my top 13 zombie movies of all time. Starting off the list at number 13, we got Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island from 1998. When the Scooby Gang reunites to investigate the haunts of Louisiana, they are invited to an island where their worst fears come out. This time, the monsters are real. Separated for nearly 15 years, this film marked the real-world reunion of the Scooby Gang. While most of the cast didn't return from the prior shows, apart from long-running series regular Frank Welker as Fred, this film still captured the heart of that original series perfectly. A modern refresh a la the contemporary 1990s, this film also contained a much darker tone. For all of that and more, it was a critical and fan-loved hit. For zombie content, it's a very 70s, 80s-esque zombie lineup. Resurrected corpses that are cursed and unable to rest. A very PG version of this though, as our zombies are very much defanged and they're not, cannibalizing the Scooby Gang. But instead bringing with them a mood and an atmosphere that carries that creepiness. I might have the shirt, but I won't be blinded by my love of Scooby-Doo and rank this higher than 13th. That would be crazy. But for introducing me to zombies as a kid, for being one of my favorite Scooby-Doo movies of all time, and for being flawless in my eyes, I will rate it 5 out of 5 stars. At 12, we have The Plague of the Zombies from 1966. So James Forbes travels to a small Cornish village to investigate a strange plague affecting the townsfolk. During his investigation, he discovers a plot involving voodoo magic and the resurrected dead. A Hammer Horror original, this film came 2 years before Romero's classic Night of the Living Dead. At the time, zombie movies were not the established idea or proven market draw. But the idea paid off. Making a profit, this film was also groundbreaking by branching ideas and eras, blending the original voodoo zombie lore of Haiti with the undead creatures more popular today. This film deserves more credit than it usually receives. The graveyard dream sequence speaks for itself. Ahead of its time and telling a good Hammer Horror story during its peak era, I hold it back for its slower pace and abrupt ending. An almost great movie, I would give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. At number 11, we got Re-Animator from 1985. Herbert West reveals to his roommate an incredible invention. He is able to reanimate fresh corpses. When an experiment goes horribly wrong, things really get out of hand. An 80s cult hit. I've spoken about this one during my crazy 1980s horror video. Blending an H.P. Lovecraft story with sarcastic and dark comedy, this film also includes some very bloody and uncomfortable sequences. Finally, Jeffrey Combs as Herbert West delivers one of the most iconic cult performances of that decade. For zombie content, Re-Animator offers a unique interpretation. With the central idea of reanimating the dead, they are definitely, in one sense, zombies. But in another way, completely against this, as depending on the person, they are either acting exactly like they did while they were alive, or instead they're a maddened psychopath tearing their victims to pieces. A movie I like and dislike at the same time, with most of the movie being interesting and darkly funny, but containing a third act that personally, I feel like it goes a bit too far. Overall though, I would give Re-Animator 4 out of 5 stars. Number 10 is going to be City of the Living Dead from 1980. When a priest's death unlocks a gate to hell in a small New England town, a New York City reporter must face off with the dead who have come back. The first entry of Lucio Fulci's Gates of Hell trilogy, this one just barely missed out a spot on my crazy 1980s horror video. Why? Because while very crazy, I personally found the story to be the most coherent and the narrative the easiest to follow. Developed following the success of an earlier film, Fulci took inspiration from Lovecraft, but decided not to go the adaptation route as in our last entry. As with the other films in his trilogy, City of the Living Dead offers zombies, but Fulci's own twisted interpretation. These zombies seem to act like ghosts, being able to appear and disappear wherever they choose. With that said, one of the final sequences offers one of the best graveyard sequences ever, as the undead rise up inside of this deep catacomb. A great first entry into this cult 80s trilogy, City of the Living Dead gets 4 to 5 stars from me and rounds out that top 10. Number 9, we have The Beyond from 1981. A young woman inherits an old hotel in Louisiana. When accidents, murder, and death occur more frequently, she learns a gateway to hell has been opened. The second in Fulci's Gates of Hell trilogy, this is my favorite of that trilogy. While less coherent than City of the Living Dead, its insanity is ramped up to a perfect level, making things very fun and over the top, while still coherent enough that you're not shaking your head in confusion. Earning the video nasty label by the UK Film Board, this film ramped up the zombie content with an entire sequence in a morgue, putting a horde of decomposing corpses with murderous intent up against our two protagonists. During such sequence, one of the zombies' heads is blown to pieces in a great and memorable practical effect. As I said, my favorite of the Gates of Hell trilogy, The Beyond also earns 4 out of 5 stars from me. But, as you will see later on this list, this is not my favorite zombie movie by Lucio Fulci. Number 8, we got Pet Sematary from 1989. The death of a pet launches a series of events more and more devastating to a small town doctor and his family. A perfect Stephen King adaptation that I praised highly a few videos ago on why it didn't need a sequel. I'll keep my thoughts briefer and focus on its zombie content. While it's my favorite movie included on this list, it would be a crime to rank it any higher on this zombie ranking. While a major plot element revolves around resurrecting the dead, and thus made it worthy in my eyes of this list, the zombies of this movie are not ravenous flesh eaters. Instead, they are psychopaths returning to life as the most twisted homicidal versions of themselves. As I said, my favorite on this list, I give Pet Sematary an easy 5 out of 5 stars. But we're talking zombie movies today. So I think number 8 is a perfect place for this incredible film. Number 7, we got Night of the Creeps from 1986. 2 college geeks accidentally thaw a corpse being held in a government facility. What they don't know is this corpse is infected with a parasite that turns its victims into murderous zombies. The most recent discovery and watch for this list, Night of the Creeps, is one hell of a movie. While to me, it's definitely a zombie movie, it's also a slasher an alien invasion film, and an 80s college comedy. But all of that extra stuff only adds to the enjoyment for me and makes this one incredible cult film. This is also definitely the most unique zombie movie I included. As I mentioned in my plot summary, the zombies here are a result of being controlled by parasites and turning them into seemingly mindless drones. Further than that, these are alien parasites that can only be killed by fire. That's right, even when our survivors kill the zombie body, they still must burn the parasite before someone else can be infected. A new watch for me, I try not to let my recency bias affect me too much in my ranking. But for its fresh take on many different genres, great practical effects, and for being a kick-ass movie overall, I give Night of the Creeps 4 out of 5 stars. Number 6, we have Night of the Living Dead from 1968. A group of strangers find themselves barricaded in an old farmhouse. Trying to break in is a horde of flesh-eating corpses. A total game changer for horror and zombie films more specifically, this independent production by George A. Romero blended schlocky midnight horror alongside social commentary still relevant today and very impactful at the time. A little spoiler for the rest of this list, this has always been my favorite of Romero's Dead films, so you will not see those later installments on the list. Very monumental for the zombie genre. Though credit still needs to be laid down for Plague of the Zombies, this film largely redefined the zombie genre for decades to come, with many, if not the vast majority of zombie films being heavily influenced. Fun fact, in this original, heavily influential work, the zombies are in fact known as ghouls, as Romero connected zombies to be Haitian folklore and not what he was attempting to do. This is a great zombie movie, but I have always found the pacing to be a bit too slow and have always been infuriated by some of the dialogue exchanges and character decisions. Overall though, it earns a solid 4 out of 5 stars for me. Number 5 is going to be Zombie Flesh Eaters from 1979. Searching for her father, Anne and a reporter travel to a small Caribbean island. Unfortunately, they are quickly caught in the middle of a zombie outbreak. Lucio Fulci's debut into the zombie horror genre. Yes, this is my favorite of his zombie movies. Adapted from an original screenplay that saw this as a sequel to Romero's Dawn of the Dead the year prior. I much prefer this movie. The gore and practical effects are insane. The sleaziness is next level even for Italian cinema. And this film contains some truly incredible sequences. Namely, the infamous scene in which a zombie fights a shark. And this wasn't no prop shark. Nope. They had a trained diver wrestle with a fully grown shark. Madness. But I love it. Specifically, on those zombies, what I love about them is the way they are characterized and explained. First, their origins seem to rest from a combination of voodoo curses and an unexplainable awakening of the dead that has plagued this island. Secondly, these zombies don't mess around. Instead of mindless drones, they almost seem to have a murderous intent, as one famously stalks a woman in her home and viciously kills her by impaling her eyeball. Including one of my favorite Italian horror soundtracks, rivaling Argento and Goblin's best work, this incredibly wild movie not only gets 4 out of 5 stars from me, but sits high at number 5. Number 4 is going to be Shaun of the Dead from 2004. Shaun has a simple life revolving around his girlfriend, his mother, and his best friend Ed. When a zombie outbreak threatens this simplicity, Shaun must actually do something with his life. The beginning of Edgar Wright's so-called Cornetto trilogy, this is one of my favorite comedy horrors ever made. Namely, because it fits that niche perfectly. It's scary and intense when it needs to be, including some excellent practical gore effects the guys from the 70s and the 80s would smile at, while also being genuinely funny with its British humor and also playing a scary scene in another movie as a playful gag. Namely, when Sean and Ed encounter that zombie in the garden. For zombies, this film is actually very unoriginal, but purposely so. Wright's intention was to play homage to Romero's style of slow, pact-based zombies. I mean, hell, the name of the movie is a direct homage to Romero as well. And just because it's unoriginal doesn't make it bad. Reinventing the wheel can get old itself, and sometimes, such as this case, a good old-fashioned zombie apocalypse is what you need. A nearly flawless film, and my second favorite zombie comedy on this list, Shaun of the Dead earns 4.5 out of 5 stars from me and comes in at number 4. At number 3, we have Wreck from 2007. A television reporter and her cameraman are following firefighters for the night. When they are dispatched to an apartment building, they find themselves locked in with infected corpses. Off the bat, let me tell you a little story about this movie. Having seen it once before and knowing how intense and scary it truly is, I thought I would play a little prank on my girlfriend. Show her a movie and not tell her what we were watching. I chose this little Spanish film and wow, oh wow, did I mess up. Because of its zombie content and how terrifying of an experience it was, I briefly lost the right to show my girlfriend any horror movies. It took me a while to dig out of that hole. Focusing on the zombie content, this is another unique film on the list. Before I go into detail, spoilers for the final act of this film. Okay. Now, while in the pointless American remake Quarantine, the zombie outbreak is revealed to be a pretty typical, virus outbreak. But in this original film, the origins of the outbreak are connected to demonic possession and an enzyme from that possessed girl becoming mutated and contagious. Talk about a genre blend and wild twist of an idea. My girlfriend's least favorite movie ever made. I personally find this to be a nearly flawless horror masterpiece, rated 4.5 out of 5 stars, and put it as my third favorite zombie movie of all time. Number 2, we have The Return of the Living Dead from 1985. Two knuckleheads accidentally release a gas that reanimates corpses into flesh-eating zombies. Dan O'Bannon's directorial debut, this is without a doubt the most 1980s movie on the list. From a punk rock soundtrack that kicks ass, to teenage punks making up a large chunk of our main cast, this film also blended dark satire into its final act with a bleak feeling reflecting the Cold War. Continuing on this 80s theme, let me point out that this is the 6th movie on this list from that decade. For my money, the 80s was the definitive decade of zombie movies, and impressively, The Return of the Living Dead is the one to beat them all out. My favorite zombie comedy of all time, this film does not hold back on general zombie content either. Directly referencing Night of the Living Dead in the film, this film also adds to that mythology. First, zombies are almost impossible to kill in this movie outside of cremation. And second, you know that famous adage of zombies craving brains? This is the film where that originated. While I prefer Shaun of the Dead as an overall film, The Return of the Living Dead edges it out on this list for being my preferred zombie comedy movie, keeping me entertained for the majority of the runtime, right up to its bleak ending. This is my second favorite zombie movie of all time and earns 4 out of 5 stars from me. At number 1, we have Train to Busan from 2016. A divorced father is traveling with his young daughter. When a zombie outbreak occurs on board their train, carnage ensues as the father fights to protect his daughter. My definitive number 1. This movie to me captures perfectly what I want out of a straight up, no nonsense zombie movie. Heartbreak and terror. To me, that is what zombies are all about. The end of the world, the end of humanity, bleak apocalypses, families being torn apart, our worst and best instincts as people coming out. This film has all of that for a really impactful emotional roller coaster that devastates you in the end. The zombies for me are both secondary but also crucial ingredients for this movie. They're the trigger point, causing the tragedy throughout the film while also being secondary, as this is very much a character study of a father learning to be a father. But on the zombies, they're very much that modern day sprinting, body twitching, ravenous animal-like interpretation with a slight twist. Whenever it is dark, the zombies freeze in an almost trance-like state, immediately awoken by the light. This makes for some very intense sequences throughout. A film very hard to rewatch, but no less high on films I would recommend you at least see once. Train to Busan earns a perfect 5 out of 5 stars from me and comes in as my favorite zombie movie of all time. There we go. Wow, what a list and combination of films. Only zombie movies could see me talking about Scooby-Doo and Italian horror in the same video. Thank you so much for watching, and please share with me your favorite zombie movies down below. And believe me, I expect to see a lot of movies mentioned that I didn't include. Not everything could make the list, and also remember, my choices aren't going to be the same as yours. Could you please like, share, and subscribe for more weekly videos? And until the next time, what's your favorite scary movie?